Talk and Shop Network makes no apologies for what you're about to hear. The host might, though. It's the $9 Podcast with Drewski. Because moderating for pro wrestling's good brothers wasn't enough work. Talking wrestling and more. Weekly on all major podcast networks.
And we're back. The $9 Podcast is back on the air for another week of really vapid takes and general nonsense. It's Drewski. I am the moderator of the Talk and Shop Patreon for Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Luke Doc Gallows. And this is episode 45 altogether. It's the 45th one of these have done, but this will be like the fifth, the fifth for the quote unquote for the masses podcast. It goes out worldwide, and I like to think it's getting easier, but some days it's very much a work in progress. I mean, it's very inconvenient sometimes, especially if you roll out of bed like at a certain hour and you're not used to this. So, you like to try and be consistent with these podcasts, but it's a matter of repetition, and it's like some won't be as good as others, and you have to realize that. Hopefully this is not one of those occasions. I'd like to start off this week talking about my other bosses. Not the bosses for my shoot job, but my bosses Machine Gun and Gallows, who are over in Japan right now for Pro Wrestling Noah, and they're embroiled. They're in the middle of the what they call the Neo Global Tag League. It's an annual thing. The tournament field is set up basically like G1 style, where it's like round robin, and top two. There's two blocks, and it's a top point getter on each block moves on to the final. As of today, the Hoots, aka the Good Brothers, are tied for first. There's a three-way tie for first in their block, and they have like an important match coming up. Actually, in the next hour or so, they face Lycos Gym in a block match, and it's getting to that time of the tournament where it's like every win is crucial because the points start adding up, and the boys are having a real good time in Japan. I'm watching like the Instagram posts of how many different steakhouses and sushi places they've hit up. You learn the names of exotic foods that you didn't know existed, like horse mackerel. It's an actual type of fish that's considered a delicacy in Japan. It's a sort of thing where it's like, okay, it's a cultural thing, and more power to them. It's like one there. It's like you have to embrace the local fare, because quite frankly, there's not very many Western places in Japan, which is to be expected. But the boys have been like during long bus rides, which they're quite accustomed to long bus rides, going back to the New Japan days. So having to take long bus rides on a Noah bus after years of after what seemed like about a decade in Japan, since the last time they did in Japan. Yeah, it's sort of like coming home for them. They've been doing like old school talking shop episodes in hotel rooms along the way. When they can, when they're awake, and it's very cool. To see them enjoying it, taking the time of enjoying it, because it's a lot different for the gun, because now the gun is about 2 years sober now, and so this is pretty much the first tour, arguably, that he's done in Japan sober. So everything he used to see like in a haze back in the Tokyo Dome Hotel days with the days of original Dock and Shop. I remember all that was through a haze of like strong zeros, copious amounts of strong zeros, and there's the machine gun is a lot better, different headspace now. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. He has his kids at home. 5 boys. Like the oldest just turned 16 early a couple days ago, and another one's about ready to go into high school. And time catches. The machine gun likes to say, time goes by like in a snap, and it does. It does in all walks of life. It's like, it gets faster the older you get. Trust me. Trust me on this. It's like, for my shoot job, it's like I'm at the point now where it's my I work 40 plus hours a week, and it feels like I only work like about 8. That's how fast stuff goes. That's how fast time goes. It's to the point where like the weekends only seem like they're like about 12 hours long. It's just your whole perception of time changes the older you get. And it'll be interesting to see if the boys will come home with the GHC tag belts to add to their collection, to further pad their stats as one of the all-time greats. Great tag teams in pro wrestling. Who's to say? We've still got about another week plus, so anything can happen. It'll be interesting to see. I hope it's a successful tour. I very much hope so. I see the discourse about what's going on in WWE, about how some of the higher ups are trying to change the narrative around in regards to like the certain storylines being affected by social media, and particularly the build up around WrestleMania 40. And Nick Khan just came out like about a couple of days ago and basically tried to spin it as, what they're currently doing is what they were planning to do all along, which is basically trying a whole bunch of hand waving for like a real bad pivot. Now, if it was the first time this sort of situation happened, okay, you can give it a pass. But this is happened many a time in the history of the company. It doesn't matter who's in charge. It's like baked into their philosophy. And you just take it at face value and like, okay, I believe you, but evidence shows you otherwise. And I'm sure they believe what they're doing is the right thing, and they swear quite a bit that they're not affected by social media, but they do tend to do love to play up to social media. It's like You can't have it both ways. Like, and heard some strange stories going on. They've got enough problems apparently starting. No, apparently have been going on. Where it's like there's internal strife about what exactly they're going to do with Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan. I mean, putting Liv Morgan into the women's bracket for the bracket for the Queen of the Ring, even though she's already women's champion, is a subtle indicator that they really don't know what they're wanting. They have no idea what they're doing in regards to what to do with her going forward. And as far as Dominic's sort of in a holding pattern, because I think they had something planned for him like a AAA, but the whole El Grande Americano thing just took off, and they decided to ride the hot hand. Even though at one time, Dominic was the hot hand, now you have him sitting on the sidelines with nothing to do. You're waiting for them to come up with something. Same with CM Punk. Right? You make a big deal about getting his WrestleMania main event a couple months ago. And now it's like, okay, what's next? Right now, apparently nothing. And apparently there's like it's becoming like very obvious that they're trying to figure out still how to shed payroll for some reason, in terms of TKO. You have an aging roster, and the new kids aren't really there yet. But there comes a time where you have to take the chance. But apparently Triple H is, if you believe some opinions, he sort of snake bit after what he aborted John Cena heel turn during his retirement. He's afraid of taking chances like that again because of the backlash. And I'm sure they have a plan, but there's, is it the right plan? Will they agree on the right plan? Will the plan go through 10 different directions before it comes to something that was not the original idea? If you believe LA Knight, there's a couple, the Royal Rumble match ended up being that he was in, where he eliminated Brock Lesnar, started out a whole lot different than it ended because of minds being changed. I saw parts of that interview of LA Knight, and there's one thing about LA Knight. Even when he was Eli Drake, he was not afraid to call out bullshit. Even in TNA, that's what got him labeled labeled a bit of a malcontent, because he wasn't satisfied with creative, and he would question creative instead of just going along with it. Because he's looking at it as, how does this benefit my character? When my character, he's looking at it like, does my character, he's looking at it like an actor who's fiercely protective of his character. Reacting to situations like, my character wouldn't act like this, my character wouldn't act like that. and that runs opposite to what the writers' room's trying to have him do, and it's a bit of a tug of war. It's a bit of a tug of war going on, and I'm sure things will shake out somehow. They always seem to. Sometimes sometimes you luck into something and you just write it and write it and write it and write it. It's like what they're doing with El Grande Americano in AAA. It's like they're just going to write it as long as they can. And the whole gimmick of like how many Anglos are wearing masks in Mexico, posing as luchadors. To work in angles like that, and yet that concept could have been better served by somebody already on the roster who's been stuck in a gimmick. Needs like a gimmick refresher after his dealings with the Bloodline after a certain amount of years. Yeah, I'm talking about Sami Zayn. Yeah. And so fiercely protect the lore of El Generico is tailor made for AAA, but they for some reason decided to go with El Grande Americano because they didn't want to be beholden to something they did not create. Because El Generico in AAA or El Generico in CMLL is a no-brainer. Too much history, but it's been almost a decade now since El Generico's last been seen. I mean, they could have. There's so many ways they could have done it in WWE, but that's a lot of fantasy quarterbacking. It's like you can say that all the Americano kids were raised in the Tijuana orphanage. Just that one little throwaway line that was just locking lore. But no. I'm not sure. It's been so long. I'm not sure the whole El Generico thing would be revisited, because you can't have El Generico without Kevin Owens, because their stories are too interlinked. And is it something in the future? It could be. It could be. I mean, I could write like a 3-month thing with like El Generico coming to El Generico against Dominic, right? And it would be amazing. It would be amazing to it would be amazing to a lot of long time wrestling fans, but nostalgia only takes you so far, because it's not the same. It's like, but forgive the ramble a bit, but let's just move on from this, because it's just gonna make me depressed. Not as depressed as when I found out that found out my boys Butcher and Blade had gotten released from AEW as of today, after being 7 plus years with the company, and doing all the dirty work, shining up a lot of the roster, work with everybody work with pretty much everybody, almost every faction, because mercenaries. And you could see the writing on the wall for a couple reasons. One being, not sure how Blade would recover from his back surgery, because the back surgery he had was pretty gnarly, and it took like 2+ years for him to recover. And the good thing about props to TK for like basically paying for the surgery and like making sure it's on contract until he could heal up. It's like it's a stand-up thing to do. And another thing is the on again, off again thing, where it's like, Butcher has a new band called Atomic Rule, and in church, it's kind of hard to book guys when they have tours lined up. We sort of worked around it during the last tour cycle for Every Time I Die. But it was still a bit of a hassle, right? They were accommodating, but it was still a bit of a hassle. Plus, there was like a personal behind-the-scenes stuff going on that I'm not gonna go into, because it's of a personal nature, and plus, the Don Callis family basically usurped Butcher and Blade's role as being mercs to the stars. Basically, it's like there's more of them, and they can do more, get more of the roster over. And plus, the big fella and Pepper aren't getting any younger. There comes a time where you're just holding on just to hold on, or you put the younger guys over, which they did a lot. They put over who they were supposed to put over. Like Kenny Omega famously put them over for their professionalism in a presser a couple of years ago after a pay-per-view, because they claim they never complained. They just did their jobs. It's like no attitudes, just get what you need me to do. And it's like total professionals. Does this mean they're gone from AEW forever? I don't think so. I think they'll be back. It'll probably be like a per appearance thing. But until then, they're gonna tear up the indies. Primarily like the Northeast Indies and up in Canada with like for C4, and probably run ESW, and now they can probably do stints with MLW and maybe WSW. Maybe they get a call to go to Australia in November with the Hoots. Well, it also means that they're available for Larry's Auto Pro, Larry Auto Pro now, which is Gallows' home promotion in Georgia that he runs. So they will not be hurting for work going forward, and that's a good thing. I wish those guys the best. I really do. And while they leave, like the AEW rolls on, getting to getting into early summer, as the road to next pay-per-view, the Forbidden Door pay-per-view starting up in earnest as of last Dynamite. And it's interesting that they're using the build to actually build up animosity between the partner organizations. It's like, we've seen the New Japan discourse about how they hate AEW or whatever. It's like it's all talking crap and and there's a reason like Ishii returned, because it's getting that time of year. It's like it's summer. It's like Stone Pitbull needs his summer vacation, and he's about to have some bangers, like as he does. And then you got the new wrinkle is something that's carried over from Stardom, when it was an angle in Stardom where Tekla, the Toxic Spider, basically assaulted the head of Stardom, and during a show, that was part of an angle, and she got fired, got quote unquote fired as a result, and he left the company soon after. And now she's came out and declaring war on anybody coming over for Forbidden Door from Stardom. And be interesting to see who's coming over, because apparently Sayuri is coming over for Ring of Honor to face Athena, like about a week before Forbidden Door. So it's a pretty good chance it might be Sayuri versus Tekla at Forbidden Door, which would be amazing. But it could also be Maki Ito, which would be interesting as well, because Maki Ito has been putting in the work. For AEW folk who haven't seen her since she went back, seen her, she's improved a great deal since the last time she was in AEW a couple of years ago. She's gotten really good, and it's going to surprise a lot of people. And we'll just see. There's a lot of AEW has a lot of irons in the fire. I mean, they have Grand Slam Mexico just got announced for Arena Mexico in early August, and just a couple weeks before All In, and odds are it'll probably be like could be Andrade versus Mystico in the main event. It's still early. They'll figure something out. And there's just abundance of ways they can go. Now it'll be a stacked card. It's going to be a sellout regardless, because CMLL has been selling out all year long. It's to the point where it's like it's automatic no matter who shows up. So it'll be very interesting to see. I also find it kind of interesting that the Jet Kevin Knight is part of the Don Callis family now. Right, it makes sense, and it makes sense to the point, because that's the Don Callis way. Don Callis is it's like a college football recruiter. Just keeps going after 5-star talent, and so he's stockpiling it. So in case because talent, some of the talent's going to graduate, quote unquote, basically otherwise known as like go babyface and like break away. And he's got replacements lined up. It's shades of the Heenan family. It's like it's part Heenan family, part Dangerous Alliance with Don Callis family, because they're so deep. It's like you haven't really seen them all at once in a while, all together at the same time. Well, you only see like it's not like the NWO days where it's like you see the entire NWO every week in the ring. No, they're doing it right. It's like you see like a handful every now and then, just a reminder. Like, and it's be interesting to see what happens like when Josh Alexander comes back. Because Jake Doyle came back and he just slotted right back in. Did a little bit of a pivot and teamed him up with Brian Cage, and that's a scary team. That's a very scary team. Powerbomb everybody. Powerbomb a ring, for crying out loud. And those two might be in a collision course with Shelton and Bobby Lashley in the future. I can just see it, and I can't wait for it. And they started doing the teasing of the New Day showing up in AEW with what in true Young Buck style. Like, if you've been a BTE fan over the years, you notice that they like to drop little subtle hints, like wearing certain shirts or certain phrases, a little wink and a smile to the camera. If you pay attention, it's like especially Nick pulled out an old school shirt from about that came out about the time of them facing the New Day at E3. And you combine that with Austin Creed making it his mission to let everybody know who comes up to his booth at conventions wearing a Kenny Omega shirt, that it's on site between him and Kenny. It's like you don't have to subscribe to a newsletter, $9.99 for a newsletter to figure out the obvious. It's just a matter of when. It's just a matter of when. I'm sure. The semifinals of the Owen are interesting because the story they're telling with Will, it's been subtle. It's like he's becoming the aerial assassin again. He's embracing the assassin part of more and more, and it's going to make for an interesting final, especially if he's ends up against Swerve in the final. That'll be interesting, because finals are set for Forbidden Door, and because I know one of the other semifinals is next week. It's Swerve versus Brody King. Those two are no strangers to each other, but built-in storylines. Like, it's just a matter of how out of hand it's going to get, and wonder if a certain cowboy returns, or Buddy Matthews returns to interfere somehow. Well, that's the WWE way of doing it. It's like here's a debut to change people's expectations of who wins the match. But we shall see. We shall see. As far as the women go, it's good to see Mercedes back. It's good to see Mercedes back, but it's good. Yeah, looks like a Mercedes and Athena collision course coming for the women's Owen, which will be fun. Which will be fun because both finals are Forbidden Door, and that'll be must see. And again, AEW is like doing really well, and they keep talking about the grifter types are talking about why does Wembley only have 25,000 seats sold? We're 2 months away. Oh my God, they should they're trying to spin a narrative that was old 5 years ago. And you neglect the fact that it was like 25,000 people without a match being announced. Right? It'll be a late build-up crowd. It's like last 2 weeks will probably be where all the sales will be, and they're going to have a good turnout. I'm not in the attendance prediction business, but I'm hoping for good things. We shall see what happens to a lot of things coming up. You got Cope and Christian, with the belts, with their hands full with the War Dogs. They just go by the Dogs now. For now, that'll change. And then you got the Young Bucks insinuating themselves in their business. And the Bang Bang Gang is involved. So it's a whole little Bullet Club Civil War and all that name going on right now. It's still, Jay White is still, in the periphery. He hasn't, no news is good news, but, it's been a while. Like, you wonder when he's going to show up again, if he does. Hard to say. Very hard to say. I'm sure that things are going to be very chaotic going forward in the next couple months. I'm going to try my best to keep an eye, try and make sense of what's going to happen, because I think this year has been nuts already. You can say that about the last 5 years in the wrestling business, but I'm feeling there's going to be a whole lot of really insane stuff happening by the end of summer. A lot of things that you never thought would happen are going to happen. And, that's exciting. Very exciting. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day here. So if you want to support your boy, go to the $9 podcast at dashery.com. If you want to email the old man, it's $9podcast at yahoo.com. You want to come to the Patreon and jump in with the Falcons Nest, which is the name for the dedicated chat room for the Good Brothers. It's patreon.com/TalknShop. And again, this podcast is worldwide on everywhere you listen to podcasts. And I thank you very much for putting up another week of me another week of me rambling a bit. And I can only hope for improvements later on. We'll see you next week.